The private jet had barely cleared the clouds when a black wolf the size of a truck landed on its roof. Metal screamed beneath its weight. Inside the cabin, Evelyn Hart lifted her tear-streaked face as the ceiling buckled above her. Her wrists were bound, her ankles were tied. Two armed men guarded the aisle while the aircraft carried her toward a life someone else had purchased. 7 days earlier, she had still believed college could save her. Then her father's debts had become more valuable to him than his daughter. Nearly 300 years earlier, another life had also been sold to fate. Cale Blackthorne had been born beneath a blood-red moon with a curse wrapped around his heart. Before the final hour of his 300th birthday, he had to find an untouched young woman bearing a broken moon mark on her left shoulder. Without her, his heart would stop. Kings had searched, priests had prayed. Hundreds of candidates had been examined across generations. None carried the mark. Now only 7 days remained. That morning, after 20 more failures, Cale stood inside the moon temple while dark veins burned beneath his skin. 3 centuries, he said, his voice shaking the stone chamber. You claim that crystal can see anything, yet it cannot find one woman. High Priestess Selene tightened both hands around the glowing sphere. Perhaps she could not be found because fate had not placed her in your path. Then fate is late. The crystal suddenly blazed white. A beam of light tore through the temple roof and pointed into the sky. Within the glass appeared a silver jet moving above the mountains. Selene gasped. The bearer of the broken moon is on that plane. Cale shifted before the final word left her lips. His black wolf crossed miles in impossible bounds, launched from a ridge, and struck the jet high above a mountain lake. Now, as panic filled the cabin, the roof split open and a tall man dropped through the opening. Wind tore at his black coat. His eyes burned crimson. The armed guards raised their weapons, but Cale moved before either man could act. In seconds, both were disarmed and trapped behind twisted seats. Shaken but alive. The aircraft tilted sharply. Cale crossed the cabin and tore the ropes from Evelyn's wrists. She recoiled from him. Don't touch me! The plane is going down! Who are you? He pulled her against his chest as the floor dropped beneath them. The reason you survived this? He carried her through the opening and leaped. Evelyn buried her face against him as they fell through cold clouds and struck the lake below. Cale surfaced with her in his arms and brought her to shore. She coughed, trembling, while he removed his coat and placed it around her shoulders. Then the torn fabric near her left shoulder slipped aside. Cale saw the pale crescent-shaped mark. Relief hit him so fiercely that he forgot how terrified she was. Who are you? Evelyn whispered. The man who has searched for you for almost 300 years. Why did you save me? Pain suddenly closed around Cale's heart. He dropped to one knee, but his gaze never left her. Because I need the bond only you can give. Evelyn stepped back. What does that mean? Cale rose slowly, centuries of command hardening every word. It means you are mine. Her palm struck his cheek. My father thought he owned me. The men on that plane thought they could sell me. I do not belong to them, and I do not belong to you. She ran into the trees before the curse forced Cale to his knees again. His guards arrived moments later. Rowan stared after her. Shall we bring her back by force? Cale touched the cheek she had struck, remembering the defiance in her frightened eyes. Find her, he ordered. Then, for the first time in his reign, he added, but no one harms her. Evelyn ran until the forest gave way to an empty county road and her lungs could no longer carry her fear. By nightfall, the cold had settled into her wet clothes, and every passing headlight made her hide behind the trees. She could not return home. Her father had already proven what her life was worth to him. She had no phone, no money, and no identification. When she found an abandoned roadside shelter with a broken door and a rusted roof, she curled into the driest corner and tried not to remember the private jet, the armed men, or the crimson-eyed stranger who had called her his. Sleep came in fragments. Each time she closed her eyes, she felt the aircraft falling again. By morning, a luxury sedan slowed beside the shelter. Vanessa Vale stepped out wearing a cream coat that probably cost more than Evelyn had earned all summer. For 3 years, Vanessa had finished second behind her in nearly every class. Today, concern softened her carefully painted face. "Evelyn, what happened to you?" Evelyn hesitated, but shame had exhausted her defenses. She told Vanessa about her father's debt, the men on the plane, and the mysterious stranger who had carried her through the sky. Vanessa wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You are safe now. I will take you back to campus." While Evelyn stared through the passenger window, Vanessa quietly photographed her torn clothes and frightened face. Before they reached the dormitory, the picture was already spreading online beneath a cruel suggestion that Evelyn had spent the night with wealthy men for money. The next afternoon, she entered the college auditorium, wearing borrowed clothes and carrying the last piece of hope she had left. The school was awarding one scholarship worth $100,000. Without it, college was impossible. When Professor Warren opened the envelope and announced, "Evelyn Hart," relief nearly brought her to her knees. Applause filled the hall as she walked toward the stage. For one bright second, she believed her life had not been taken from her after all. Then Vanessa stepped into the aisle. "Before you reward her," she called, "perhaps everyone should see how she really earns her opportunities." Evelyn's photograph appeared across the large screen behind the podium. Whispers rose. Vanessa climbed the steps, snatched the ceremonial certificate from Professor Warren, and tore it in half. Someone like her should not represent this school. Laughter moved through the auditorium, sharp and thoughtless. The scholarship committee announced that the award would be suspended until the accusations were reviewed. Evelyn's hands trembled, but she refused to leave the stage. "I studied while my father was drunk in the next room," she said. "I took exams with bruises hidden beneath my sleeves. I earned every grade on my record through nights when sleep was a luxury." The laughter faded. Evelyn looked across the silent rows. "You may judge my clothes. You may believe a photograph without asking what happened before it was taken. But do not tell me I did not earn this." Vanessa's face tightened. She raised her hand toward Evelyn, but another hand caught her wrist before it reached her. Cale stood behind them in a black suit, his expression colder than the mountain lake. Several powerful men waited at the doors, and even the dean rose from his seat. "Release me," Vanessa demanded. Cale did. Then he stepped between her and Evelyn. "Who are you?" Vanessa asked. His gaze moved to the photograph still glowing above the stage, the man who removed her from an aircraft used by human traffickers. The room went silent. Evelyn turned toward him, relief colliding with fear. Cale placed his coat around her shoulders and lowered his voice. "I searched for you all night. I never asked you to find me. You did not ask me to save you either." Evelyn met his eyes. "Saving someone does not make them yours." Something dark passed through his expression. "We will discuss that when we are alone." Then Cale faced the crowded auditorium. "Now," he said softly, "does anyone still find her suffering amusing?" No one answered Cale. The silence inside the auditorium felt heavier than applause. Rowan entered through the side doors with a leather folder in his hands, followed by 2 attorneys and the dean. Within minutes, the evidence appeared on the same screen Vanessa had used to shame Evelyn. The private flight record, the transfer of $50,000 to Evelyn's father, the identities of the traffickers, and security footage showing Vanessa photographing Evelyn without permission. Professor Warren stared at the documents in disbelief. The dean cleared his throat. "Ms. Hart, the scholarship suspension is withdrawn, effective immediately." Cale's expression did not change. "Do not restore it because I am standing here. Restore it because she earned it." The dean nodded quickly. Vanessa's face had gone pale. My father will hear about this. Cale looked at her with calm contempt. He already has. Evelyn saw Rowan glance toward Cale, waiting for another order. She understood what would come next. Do not destroy her family, Evelyn said. Every face turned toward her. Kyle studied her. She tried to destroy you. Then make her answer for what she did. Do not punish everyone around her just because you can. His voice lowered. You are asking me for mercy. No, I am asking you for justice. Something in Kyle's eyes shifted, faint but unmistakable. Vanessa was escorted from the hall to face the school's investigation, and the audience slowly emptied beneath the weight of its shame. When only Evelyn, Kyle, Rowan, and the dean remained, Rowan stepped forward. The organization that took her has not been fully dismantled. Several members escaped before local authorities reached the airfield. Evelyn's stomach tightened. Kyle turned to her. You cannot stay here. I have nowhere else to go. You will come to my estate. No. Rowan looked stunned by the answer. Kyle's jaw hardened. That was not a request. Evelyn pulled his coat more tightly around her shoulders, but refused to lower her eyes. I escaped men who believed they could move me wherever they wanted. I am not getting into another car because a powerful stranger gave an order. I am not a stranger. I know your name. That is not the same as knowing you. Cale stepped closer. You are in danger. Then explain the danger. Do not become another one. The words landed harder than her slap had for several seconds. Cale said nothing. Then he looked at Rowan. Clear the room. When they were alone, he spoke more quietly. 7 days. Evelyn remained still. You stay at my estate for 7 days while my people find the remaining traffickers. No one enters your room without permission. No one touches you. No one examines the mark on your shoulder unless you agree. When the 7 days end, you may leave. And you tell me why you need me. Before the 7th day, everything. Cale hesitated, and she saw how unnatural negotiation felt to him. Everything I know. Swear it. An Alpha King does not swear. Evelyn handed his coat back and turned toward the door. Then the answer is no. His voice stopped her. Cale swears. She looked over her shoulder. For the first time, he had spoken not as a ruler, but as a man asking to be trusted. Hours later, the black gates of Blackthorn Manor opened before them. Wolves in human form bowed as Cale passed, and Evelyn finally understood the truth. The man from the plain was not merely powerful, he ruled them all. Inside the marble hall, High Priestess Selene approached with silver-robed attendants. We must confirm the mark. One attendant reached toward Evelyn's shoulder. She recoiled instantly. Cale's command cracked through the hall. Leave. Everyone obeyed. When the doors closed, Evelyn faced him alone. What are you planning to do to me? Dark veins rose along Cale's throat as pain tightened around his heart. What the prophecy says will save my life. And if I refuse? He moved close enough for her to feel the heat of the curse beneath his skin. I have never heard that word without punishing the person who spoke it. Evelyn held his gaze. Then begin practicing. Cale stared at her for a long moment. From you, he said, his voice rough with restraint. I am learning how to endure it. He turned away, but before he reached the door, the pain struck. Cale dropped to one knee, one hand pressed against his chest. Evelyn saw the black lines spreading beneath his skin, and for the first time, she understood that behind his threats, his power, and his impossible pride, the Alpha King was truly dying. Evelyn moved before she could question herself. She caught Cale's arm and guided him toward the nearest chair. But he resisted, as though accepting help were a greater humiliation than the pain itself. Do not touch me. he said through clenched teeth. You are the one falling. I said I am fine. And I said I do not believe you. The dark lines beneath his skin reached higher along his neck. For one frightening second, Evelyn saw not a king, but a man fighting to remain upright because too many people depended on his strength. She called for Celine, but Cale caught her wrist. No priest. You need help. They have watched me suffer for centuries. I will not give them another performance. His grip loosened when he saw the fear in her eyes. Did I hurt you? Evelyn looked at his hand around her wrist. Cale released her immediately. The question unsettled her more than the command had. No, she said, but you nearly did. He lowered his gaze, as if storing the answer somewhere important. Later that evening, Cale told her the truth he was willing to share. They sat across from each other in a quiet library, separated by a long table and the weight of everything neither trusted the other enough to say. My heart will stop on the final hour of my 300th birthday, he said. The mark on your shoulder appears in the prophecy. A bond between us may draw the curse out of me. Evelyn folded her arms. And what happens to me, I do not know. That is not comforting. It was not meant to be. She studied him. You saved me because you needed me alive. Yes. You protect me because you care what happens to me. Cale's expression hardened. I protect what belongs to me. I do not belong to you. I know you will keep saying that until you understand it. He looked away first. Over the next 2 days, Evelyn began noticing the things Cale never mentioned. Her identification had been replaced. Her college records were secured. Her father had been admitted to a treatment center, but Cale had left a decision to visit entirely to her. The torn scholarship certificate now rested inside a glass frame in her room. Most surprising of all, the servants whispered that Cale had ended the search for other marked women. No more girls would be taken from their homes. Still, he remained distant, as though kindness were safest when performed unseen. On the third night, Evelyn heard something break behind the locked doors of his chamber. She entered without permission and found Cale on the floor beside an overturned table, one hand pressed to his chest. Leave, he warned. You are bleeding. I will not die tonight. Then stop acting as though pain is something you must survive alone. She knelt and pressed the clean cloth to the cut near his collarbone. Cale caught her wrist, his eyes burning red. You do not know what you are touching. A man in pain. A monster. Evelyn held his gaze. The monsters on that plane carried weapons. You stood between them and me. His fingers loosened. For the first time, he let her see him weak. That same night, Evelyn woke screaming from a dream of falling through clouds. Cale appeared in her doorway but did not enter. May I come in? She nodded. He stopped beside the bed. Do you want me to touch you? She shook her head. Just do not let me wake up alone. Cale sat on the floor beside her bed and remained there until dawn, close enough that she could hear him breathe, far enough that she never felt trapped. When morning light touched the room, Evelyn found him asleep against the bed frame, one hand open beside him, still careful not to cross the distance she had chosen. That evening, beside the fire, Cale asked why the scholarship mattered so much. Because education is the only thing my father could not sell away from me, she said. I could give you everything. You could give me money. You cannot give me the feeling that I built my own life. Cale watched the flames. Then what do you want from me? Evelyn answered softly. Ask me before you decide for me. He looked at her for a long time. Evelyn, do you want me to stay tonight? Her heart tightened at the effort behind the question. Yes, she said, but only beside me. Cale inclined his head. The king who had spent centuries commanding the world sat quietly at her side, learning that closeness did not have to begin with possession. By the fifth morning, Evelyn no longer flinched when Cale entered a room, but she still noticed how the air changed around him. Servants lowered their eyes, guards straightened. Even silence seemed to obey. Yet outside the eastern courtyard, a little girl with silver braids ran straight toward him and wrapped both arms around his leg. Cale froze. Evelyn covered a smile. The man who crossed the sky and tore open an aircraft is afraid of a child. I am not afraid. Then why are you standing like a statue? The girl lifted her arms, waiting. Cale looked at Evelyn as though she had arranged the entire attack. What does she want? To be held. Why? Because she trusts you. Slowly, awkwardly, Cale lifted the child. His powerful hands became careful around her small frame. The girl touched his cheek, then laughed when his stern expression failed to frighten her. Evelyn felt something warm move through her chest. Cale noticed. What? Nothing. You are staring. I am watching you discover that gentleness will not kill you. His gaze remained on her after the child ran away. I do not know how to be gentle. Evelyn stepped closer. You did not make her afraid. That is a beginning. That evening, they walked through the moon garden behind Blackthorn Manor. White flowers opened beneath the silver light, and the crescent mark on Evelyn's shoulder suddenly grew warm. Cale stopped. The dark lines beneath his skin brightened in answer. The curse is reacting, he said. To us? Yes. He lifted his hand toward her face, then paused before touching her. May I? Evelyn nodded. His fingers rested against her cheek with a care that did not belong to the man she had first met beside the lake. If we go further, he said, I do not know what the curse will do to you. Are you afraid for me? I am not afraid. You always say that when you are afraid. For the first time, Cale almost smiled. His eyes lowered to her lips, then returned to hers. If I begin, I may not know how to stop. Evelyn's heartbeat quickened, but she did not step away. Then learn. She rose onto her toes and kissed him. It was brief, soft, and entirely her choice. Cale remained still for one breath, as though restraint required more strength than shifting into a wolf. Then he returned the kiss gently. When Evelyn pulled back, he released her at once. That choice meant more to her than the kiss itself. Hours later, the crystal sphere in Celine's chamber erupted with black light. Cale, Rowan, and the priestess watched a vision form within it. Darkness left Cale's heart, crossed into Evelyn, and silenced hers before sunrise. Rowan's face went pale. The ritual must happen tonight. One human life cannot outweigh the survival of the kingdom. Cale turned on him. She is not a number. Evelyn had come searching for Cale and stopped outside the half-open door. Her hopes shattered before she entered. You knew I could die. Cale faced her. I knew there was danger. I only learned the truth now. You warned me I might be hurt. You did not say I might never wake up. I will not complete the ritual. Tears gathered in her eyes. Why should I believe the man who first told me I belonged to him? Cale accepted the accusation without defending himself. Do not believe my words. Watch what I do next. He turned toward the guards. Open the gates. Prepare a car. Evelyn leaves tonight. Rowan stepped forward. Your birthday is 2 days away. Without her, you will die. Cale looked at Evelyn, and the possession that once burned in his eyes was gone. Then I have 2 days left to make certain she survives me. By sunset, Cale had arranged every detail of Evelyn's future, as if preparing a kingdom for life without its king. Her scholarship was secured. A small house near campus had been placed in her name. The traffickers who remained at large were being pursued through human courts, not royal vengeance. because Evelyn had asked for justice instead of destruction. Even her father's treatment would continue, whether she ever chose to see him again or not. Cale told her none of this. He only stood beneath the stone archway at the manor gates while a black car waited beyond them. The curse had climbed higher along his throat, dark beneath his skin, but his posture remained unbroken. Evelyn stopped several feet away. "You are truly letting me leave. You asked for freedom, and you are giving it to me now, when it will cost you everything. It was never mine to give, it was always yours." The words struck deeper than she expected. She looked toward the open gate, then back at him. "What happens after I go?" "You return to school. You build the life your father tried to take from you." "That is not what I asked." Cale's gaze held hers. "I know. You are dying. I have been dying since the day I was born." "Then why did you save me on that plane?" His answer came without hesitation. "Because I believed you were the only way I could live." Evelyn's eyes burned. And now Cale stepped closer, but stopped before entering the distance she had not invited him to cross. "Now I let you go because you are the only reason my death might mean something." She shook her head as tears gathered. "You cannot turn this into a beautiful farewell." "It is not beautiful." His voice softened. "It is simply the first right thing I have done without expecting anything in return." Evelyn searched his face. "Do you love me?" For once, the Alpha King had no command ready. He looked almost afraid of the answer. "I once wanted your body to save my heart," he said. "Now I only want your heart to keep beating, even if it never beats for me." The driver opened the rear door. Evelyn waited for Cale to stop her. He did not. She climbed into the car, and the gates closed behind her. For several miles, she sat in silence, holding herself together through sheer will. Then she noticed the restored scholarship certificate resting beside her. On the back, Cale had written, "No one has the right to take your future from you, not even me." Evelyn pressed the message to her chest. At that same moment, deep inside the moon temple, Celine's crystal erupted with silver light. Ancient words appeared across its surface, words no priest had seen in 3 centuries. "Only when the king releases what he desires most shall the broken moon become whole." Celine understood at once. The curse had never demanded conquest. It had been waiting for surrender. She reached Evelyn's car before it entered the city. Breathless, she explained the hidden truth. If Cale had forced the bond, the curse would have passed into Evelyn and ended her life. But by releasing her willingly, he had opened a second path. A freely chosen bond might save them both. It might also fail. "If I return, I could die," Evelyn said. Celine nodded. "Yes, if I do not, Cale certainly will." Far behind them, the first bell of his 300th birthday rolled across the mountains. Evelyn looked at the road ahead, then at the fading lights of Blackthorn Manor in the distance. "Turn the car around." The driver hesitated. "You are no longer being held there." Evelyn wiped her tears and faced the darkness. "I know," she said. "This time, I am going back because I choose him." The second bell had begun when Evelyn's car reached Blackthorn Manor. The estate no longer looked like a palace. It looked like a kingdom holding its breath. Silver lamps flickered along the courtyard. Guards stood frozen beneath a sky crowded with black clouds. And somewhere inside the great hall, a wolf roared with enough sorrow to shake the windows. Evelyn ran through the open doors. Broken chains lay across the marble floor. Rowan and the royal guard formed a wide circle around Cale, who stood in his wolf form beneath the shattered moon window. His black coat moved like smoke. Dark light burned beneath it. No one dared approach. "The curse is consuming him," Celine said behind Evelyn. "If he loses himself completely, he may never return." Rowan turned. "You brought her back." Kale's wolf snapped its head toward Evelyn. A warning growl rolled through the hall, not aimed at her, but at everyone standing near her. Even now, some part of him was still trying to protect her. Evelyn stepped beyond the line of guards. Kale. The great wolf became still. She took another step. Look at me. The darkness around him weakened. His enormous form folded inward until Kale knelt on the marble in human form. Breathing hard, his clothes dark with rain and shadow. When he saw her, pain gave way to anger. Who brought you here? I came back. Leave. No, this is not the time to defy me. Evelyn moved closer. I am not defying the king, I am choosing the man. Kale rose unsteadily. You could die. So could you. I have lived long enough. You have existed for 300 years. That is not the same as living. His face tightened. You do not understand what I am capable of. When I found you, I wanted to force destiny to obey me. I know, I looked at you and saw a cure. I know. Then why are you here? Evelyn placed her hand over his heart. Beneath her palm, its rhythm was already fading. Because you changed when there was no promise that I would forgive you. Kale covered her hand with his, then stopped himself and let it fall. I do not deserve your return. I did not come back because you deserve me. Her voice trembled, but she did not look away. I came back because when you finally had the power to keep me, you opened the gate instead. The third bell rang. Kale closed his eyes as the curse tightened around him. I do not know how to love without possessing. Evelyn stepped closer. Then begin by believing I can stay without being held. Celine approached the center of the hall. The hidden verse requires a declaration before the final bell. You must release every claim the throne has placed upon her. Kale looked toward the open entrance. Beyond it waited the road Evelyn could still choose. He turned to the gathered court. I, Kale Blackthorn, release Evelyn Hart from every command, bond, and claim made in my name. She is not a sacrifice. She is not a cure. She is not my property. His voice weakened, but his gaze remained fixed on hers. She is the woman I love. If she walks through that door, no one will stop her. I will die grateful that she once saw a man where the world saw only a king. Silence filled the hall. The doors stood open. Freedom waited beyond them. Evelyn looked at the road, then returned to Kale. I am not leaving. She placed both hands against his face. Not because fate ordered me to stay, because I choose you. Kale leaned his forehead against hers. The crescent mark on her shoulder blazed silver. The final bell began to ring. His breath caught. His body went still. And beneath Evelyn's hand, the Alpha King's heart stopped. Kale collapsed before the final bell finished ringing. Evelyn caught him against her, but his weight carried them both to the marble floor. Kale. She pressed her hand over his chest. Nothing answered. No heartbeat, no breath. Around them, every wolf in the hall lowered to one knee as the last echo faded into silence. Rowan stepped forward, his face emptied by grief. The Alpha King is gone. No, Evelyn held Kale closer. The warmth was already leaving his skin. The silver light on her shoulder dimmed, and a thread of darkness rose from his chest, curling around her wrist like cold smoke. Celine inhaled sharply. The curse is transferring. Two guards moved toward Evelyn. She looked up. Do not touch me, Miss Hart, Rowan said. If you remain beside him, it may take you too. I know. Then let us pull you away. Evelyn tightened her arms around Kale. My entire life, other people have decided what I was worth. My father sold me. The men on that plane treated me like cargo. Your prophecy called me a cure before anyone asked who I was. The darkness climbed higher along her arm. Fear pressed against her ribs, but she refused to move. Kael was the first person powerful enough to keep me, who chose to open the door instead. No one is taking this choice from me. Rowan stopped. Celine lowered her head. Evelyn turned back to Kael and touched his face. His expression was strangely peaceful, free from the anger and pain he had carried for centuries. "You promised me 7 days," she whispered. "You do not get to leave before I say the last word." He remained still. Her tears fell onto his cheek. "I love you. Not because you are a king. Not because fate marked me. I love the man who sat beside my bed without touching me. The man who learned to ask. The man who let me walk away when keeping me could have saved him." The darkness reached her shoulder. Pain flashed beneath the crescent mark. But Evelyn leaned down and kissed Kael gently, offering him the one thing the curse could never command, her free choice. Silver light burst between them. One beam rose from the mark on her shoulder, another appeared beneath Kael's still chest. The two lights circled each other, forming a perfect moon above them. The darkness recoiled. It twisted between their joined hands, then vanished into the silver glow. Evelyn gasped as warmth rushed back through Kael's body. A single heartbeat sounded beneath her palm, then another. Kael drew a sharp breath. His eyes opened, no longer crimson, but clear gray in the moonlight. "Evelyn." She laughed through her tears and struck his chest with her open hand. "You died." Kael looked at her as though she were the first sunrise he had ever seen. "I heard you calling me in the darkness." "Then why did you come back?" His voice was weak, but certain. "Because for the first time in 300 years, someone was waiting for me to return." He raised one hand toward her face, then stopped before touching her. Even now, he waited. "May I?" Evelyn took his hand and placed it against her cheek. "Yes." Kael noticed the mark on her shoulder. The broken crescent was gone. In its place shone a complete silver moon. "You broke the curse," he whispered. Evelyn shook her head. "No, you broke it when you opened the gate and let me leave." In the weeks that followed, Blackthorn Manor no longer felt like a place built around fear. The curse was gone, and with it disappeared the shadow that had shaped every decision Kael had made for 3 centuries. The remaining traffickers were arrested and brought before human courts. Evelyn's father entered long-term treatment and faced the consequences of what he had done. She did not forgive him immediately. She simply told him, "I hope you change. But your recovery is no longer the price of my freedom." Vanessa publicly withdrew her accusations, lost her scholarship, and was suspended from school. Kael kept his promise to Evelyn. He did not destroy Vanessa's family. He allowed justice to be enough. Evelyn returned to college and refused to abandon the future she had fought so hard to build. Kael visited whenever his duties allowed, usually arriving in a black car that made half the campus stop and stare. One afternoon, he entered the library and found her surrounded by books. Evelyn looked up. "You cannot walk in here as if you own the place." Kael sat across from her. "I do not own this place." His gray eyes softened. "I am only looking for the woman who owns my heart." Evelyn tried not to smile. "That still sounds slightly possessive." "I'm still learning." Months later, Kael brought her back to the mountain lake where they had first met. There were no guards, no priests, and no royal court, only moonlight resting across the water. He knelt before her and held out a ring. "The first day I met you, I said you belonged to me. At the time, I believed love meant taking, holding, and commanding." He looked toward the forest where she had once run from him. "You taught me that love is opening a door, and hoping the person you freed still chooses to return." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. Kael continued, "I'm not asking you to become my possession. I'm asking whether you will let me spend the rest of my life proving that choosing me was not a mistake. Evelyn whispered, I have one condition. Anything. Never tell me I am yours as an order again. Cale rose and waited for her to close the distance between them. Then I will say this instead. My heart is yours, and you will always belong to yourself. Evelyn kissed him beneath the full moon, at her coronation months later. Tradition demanded that the future Luna Queen kneel before the Alpha King. Evelyn approached the throne but remained standing. Whispers moved through the great hall. Cale stepped down from the throne and stood beside her. This is not a woman I chose to rule, he told the gathered Pax. This is the woman who taught me how to become worthy of ruling. He extended his hand without pulling her forward. Evelyn placed her hand in his by choice. Perhaps that is the true lesson of their story. Strength is not proven by how tightly we can hold someone, but by whether we can respect their freedom when letting go terrifies us. In my view, Cale did not truly become a king when others bowed to him. He became one when he stopped demanding obedience from the woman he loved. Evelyn did not save him because she was marked by fate. She saved him because she refused to surrender her dignity, even when surrounded by power. What would you have done in her place? Could you have returned after being set free? Or would the pain have been too great? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe that love should protect freedom rather than erase it, subscribe to the channel and stay with us for more stories where broken hearts find courage, justice, and a second chance.